All right, so I'm going to be the most excited person when it comes to planning you'll ever meet. I promise you. Very few people get excited about this topic, and I will bring as much energy as I can to make sure you guys are good for the next 3 hours. Now, one thing we can do is it's going to be very interactive. So I will ask questions, and you guys will be leaving here with a plan on how to take on 17. And I would argue better than probably you've had a plan before. I'm actually that confident. One of the reasons why is very few people even make a plan. So I have a pretty good understanding of what I'm betting against. The reason why we started this was because this is how I planned my life for the past decade. And it's worked out fairly well in the sense of not necessarily the results, but the lack of surprises that I've experienced in my life. Surprises are like fun when it's a birthday, but it's not fun when like your business is falling apart or your marriage is falling apart, right? Those surprises aren't good. And there's ways you can avoid that, and I argue that planning is the best way to avoid that stuff happening. Are our wants in line with what we want? So the question I ask on that is, how balanced are your goals? What you wrote down, how balanced are they with what you say you want out of life? Too many of my friends, fellow entrepreneurs, and fellow even just people in business fall into this gap, right? We have this $250,000 opportunity of that we call life. But too many times it's unbalanced. And when you drive a car with the wheels not balanced, what happens? You eventually will stop. And some of us have hit these points where we've had to stop. And that's what I'm going to try to help you avoid when it comes to planning these. And he asked me a very simple question, and he said, where do you see yourself in 15 years? I'm like, I have no idea. Right? Where do you see yourself in 15 years? And what happened was, it was an eye-opener to me that I never reset my long-term goals. It's because reality hurts and reality scares us. But what I found is by breaking that reality of 15 years out, it's almost so far away that I'm not scared of it. Right? If it's next year, that's serious. The other thing that's interesting, and I did some research about it, but your life cycle, on average, the major changes that happen in your life is every 15 years. We get stuck in the one-year goals. And the way I relate to one-year goals is that's like treading water. Who loves to tread water? Right? Where are those fitness buffs? Yep, figure there's one. It's like, yeah, I love doing it. I'll do it for an hour. Right? What happens after you tread water for longer than you can tread water? You drowned. You cannot swim anymore. So what I relate it to is all of us who set these one-year goals, we're treading water. We're trying to get to the next year. Change your focus to that 15 years, and you'll finally start swimming. Who has kids here that are doing homework on their own right now, or who have been in that phase? How many times do they tell you, well, I work better with the TV on? And what do you say to them? And then what do you go do? Right? You cannot multitask. Anyone who tells you they can is lying. You can partial task, but you cannot multitask. You cannot do two things at once. So how do you create a plan that's tough enough to withstand reality? And what we call that is the whatever you want plan. So WYW plan. The whatever you want plan was created because one of our distributors for one of our businesses asked, he said, I want to make $1 million this year. I said, great, let's do it. Here's what you want to do. We stepped him through it step by step, and we created a plan for him to follow that he could do on a smaller chunk, right? To say you want to do $1 million, that's a big goal. How do you break it down? We broke it down, and he crushed it. Action-based goals are super easy to measure because you just got to show up. And if you can't even get yourself to show up, what makes you think you're going to get the result? And I would challenge you guys that if you had employees give you the excuses that you give yourself for why you don't get what you want out of life, you would fire them. And if you wouldn't, you're an idiot. Not accepting excuses from your employees and accepting excuses from yourself is what I call a hypocrite. And if we held ourselves to the standards that we try to hold other people to, I think we'd be a little bit better off. Have you ever had a goal that's so big that you're kind of like, where do I start? Most of us should, otherwise your goals aren't big enough. But what happens is, dedicating a specific amount of time towards that goal allows you to never fail at that goal. Whichever way you believe, turns out there's not much of a reason, but I feel strongly that the number 7 has a lot of meanings to it. The reason why we use a 7-day spread, we call our weekly spread, is because I feel a day is too short and a month is too long. What I mean by that is, if you were to set your goals for a daily basis, you are setting yourself up for potential failure. You only have 24 hours to do that. Your goals can't be that big. Monthly, you have too much wiggle room. When am I going to get to it? But weekly is linear. What do I mean by that? Weekly is linear in the sense that you can move something from Monday, if you don't do it, to what day? Any day. And have you failed yet? No. Now, if you get through Sunday and you haven't done anything you need to do, then we could talk about some failure problems, and we'll work on that. But having that ability to be able to move things from one day to the other, that is why the 7-day view, I think, is so valuable. What I found is the more I'm grateful, the easier it is for me to find the growth opportunity in bad situations. Where's the growth? How can I grow from this? And you hear people talk about it all the time, but when you're in that spot, it is difficult. So take a second and write down one thing that you're grateful for this week. If we treated our lives like we do our business, we would have better lives. I promise you that. But too many times we sit there to try to build our business for what? So we can have a better life. That's contradicting itself, right? That's doing all the right things for the wrong reasons. If you want to execute a plan properly, you need to have visual cues on both sides, the execution and the plan. Well, here's the deal. I joked about how I'm bringing a written tool into this in 2017. Social media is the new water fountain, right? The new water cooler where people talk. Everybody knows what's going on in everybody's life. You either manage that flow into your business or it's going to manage you. Humans cannot do that, which means your employees cannot do that. If you think they're happy because business is going well, be careful. You don't know what's happening in their personal life. And if you say, well, I don't really want to know what's happening in their personal life, you will see the results affect the business eventually. The question I ask you again is, do you want to be in front of it or behind it? Cleaning that mess up is really difficult. Has anyone had to do that before? Right? Major personal issue happens in one of your employees' life. All of a sudden, that top employee is no longer a top employee. That's dangerous and that's scary. The reason this tool works in businesses better than any other tool that I've seen out there is because it's not just for business. This encompasses their entire life. Business is just part of their life. And you're showing respect to that, and your employees are now using your business as a vehicle to get what they want out of life. If your employees thought of your business like that, they would love coming to work every single day. But a lot of employees are scared to share because there's no space to do it. This is a controlled way to do it and a way for them to put their entire life onto paper so that you guys can actually see a little bit more transparency. What's the next step when you get knowledge? To do what?
Use it.
Use it. Take action. Implementation. Implementation is key. This is what we do as a business because I think this is what you guys should do in order to implement any system, whether it's LP or something else, any system, is follow this. First, explanation workshop. Explanation workshop. What we do is we come in for, depending how big the company is, either a half day or a full day. And we explain everything about the planner, how it works, why it works, how to use it, everything. There's budgets in the planners, there's calendars in the planners, there's exercises that we have staff do to help get themselves more centered. A full or half day workshop also lets your employees know that you value what the system is you're about to implement. Following over, physical representation of whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a poster, whether it's a mascot, whatever it might be, not digital. Hey, here's an email I sent you. Here's a PDF. You can print out. No. If you want them to take it seriously, there needs to be a physical representation. That's why when we come into the offices, we bring these LPs, just like we did with you. And we walk them through the program and we prep their next week. Quarterly evaluations and check-ins, open space for Q&A. Welcoming people to ask questions. This doesn't make sense. How does this work? Cool, let's sit down and talk. This is literally what we do. It's not me trying to hide anything. We come in and we stick with a company for a year because it's not something, I hate when you have consultants that are like, oh, come in for 1 day. It's going to cost you 20 grand and we're going to fix everything. I'm like, all right, at least give me a better pitch. Like, if you're going to waste my time, give me something better than that. You can't fix everything like that. It takes time. It took enough time to mess it up. It's going to take at least that much time to fix it. So we come in, we do all these things. We keep in touch with your employees. We keep them on our weekly emails. We come in quarterly and we do quarterly reviews. These books, if you look at them, this is not a year. This is 90 days. It's a quarter. 2 reasons. 1, because now at the end of the quarter, you can reevaluate as to where you're going for the year. 2, is it allows people to do it to completion. If you can't do something for 90 days, man, we got bigger issues. And again, constant implementation. A lot of companies that we go into can't possibly put the time in that we put in to help their employees actually implement this system. That's why we come in.